everyone.
What's up? What's up?
I'm curious how the episode's going to be today. Today is supposed to be gi, and here we are, no gi. I actually, as I was changing into my no gi, I realized I put on my underwear inside out.
On his head.
I fixed it, so let's see how this goes today. So guys, as you know, live questions get top priority. I do have a question from Sean Paul on Instagram. Guys, again, I prefer, guys, don't send me private messages. It's always better to ask on the thread that we're talking about, the upcoming episode, because it's easier for me to, we get so many questions, it's easier for me to choose the question that gets the most interest, but I don't know what the interest level will be if you guys send me a private message. So although I pretty much answer all of them, I'd rather if you guys get it, you know, through the thread at the very least, or ask live. But the reason I'm answering it is it's a very interesting question. So first of all, they were doing it in the gi, so I told Sean Paul, I said, first of all, you know, you should not be doing a heel hook in the gi. But that aside, what wound up happening, so he was caught in an outside heel hook, and he had like a really good grip on the knee. So he was opening the knee, but he felt sort of tension in his ankle, which you could always try to sort of pry. The problem becomes it can be painful, and eventually you might have to go with it. The question is how strong the guy is. So he was defending well. You could try to stall it off for a little bit, bring the other leg and kind of escape. But you don't want to be sort of, this is not necessarily a long-term question, especially if you have a good grip. Again, I can try to escape, but probably the best way, if you do feel that your ankle is being tweaked, what we're going to do is we know that he's going to be turning to his left. So I'm going to let go. I'm going to prop myself. And now is critical point. I'm going to back step over it. And now I'll forward it. So guys, again, it doesn't matter. Like, even if the guy doesn't have a perfect body positioning, perfect control over the legs, if you just stay in those positions, it can get to your joints. So the question, you can't just sort of like hold them off. Holding off is a temporary solution. Now, you know that I distinguish between positions that are long-term, and what I mean by long-term could be 10 seconds, 30 seconds, where you don't feel any pressure to move, and that are sustainable. So you could sit there and basically, maybe the guy has a better position, but you don't have to do anything. And long-term unsustainable, and again, long-term is a relative term. It means that basically, if you don't move, there is a submission. So you have to do something. So I'm a big fan of creating long-term, you know, and long-term is a misnomer, because it could be like literally, I'm a fan of creating unsustainable positions where the guy goes down into a funnel into, you know, eventually being finished, even if he does sort of thwart the initial or second submission threat. By the way, guys, this brings me to next week's episode. I know I'm jumping all over the place, but why don't you reel me in?
It's your show.
So, guys, next week I'll be filming up in Montreal. Finally, we get a chance to travel back and forth. So we will actually be filming during the time that we normally do this show. So I'm thinking about maybe early Wednesday afternoon doing something more like a Q&A. You know, there's a couple of different topics. You know, one of them could be this long-term sustainable versus unsustainable position. The other one could be, I'm also a big fan of anticipating moves, meaning that when you attack or you're in a certain position, you attack knowing what that submission looks like, but also if your training partner or opponent deals with that position in a very technical way, you know where his only possible of going is, and therefore you can head him off at that pass. So you can kind of stop him at that position. So anyways, that's sort of targeting maybe Wednesday afternoon. If you guys have any other topics, we'll try to send out a notice on Facebook on Tuesday to let you know exact time if you want to tune in live, and then we'll post it on Friday. We'll actually upload it on Friday morning at the usual time. Anyways, let's go back to this question. So the reason I'm using my kind of bad knee is because that's sort of the same side that Sean Paul had. So again, maybe this was Freudian slip or something that, you know, we dressed no gi because we wouldn't be doing a heel hook in the gi. So again, he had a good opening and he could, you know, potentially you could sort of thwart. But again, here, yeah, you can sort of stay here, but eventually this is going to start to kick in. So before it starts to kick in really harsh, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to disengage my outside arm. And as he's turning, I'm going to backstep. And now the threat is gone. Not just the threat is gone, but you're going into a dominant position. So I hope that answers your question. Guys, when you're doing these kind of techniques, it's always good to have a good training partner that allows you to experiment with things or sort of to feel where the pain is, maybe go to the limit but not push it past the limit. You know, in competitions or if you have a bad training partner, guys tend to rip it and just, there may not be a good enough technique, but they just make up for the lack of technique with, you know, power intensity. And when you kind of think, you slow it down. Guys, you got to read the body language of your training partner. When somebody, especially in training, when somebody slows down, it sort of like means, okay, I'm sort of recognizing, and they start to kind of like not sort of like go crazy to defend. They kind of recognize that they're caught. So this is where you also need to slow down. But then some people actually abuse that, where it's just like, now it's like they suddenly escape. It's like, and then you have that argument that, you know, strikers used to have with BJJ guys back in the day, or, you know, strikers, you know, used to have with each other. Man, if I didn't pull my kick, your teeth would be on the floor. No, man, I successfully deflected, or, you know, I ducked under or whatever, and we wind up with the same argument. So, anyways, I hope that answers your question. And Mike, what do we got?
So before the first question, just to clarify,
I did fix my underwear.
just to clarify, we're not going live on Wednesday. You can send your questions before Wednesday. We're going to pre-record it and upload on Friday. That's when you tune in.
That's what I mean?
No, that's when they tune in.
Yeah, that's
so
what you
there's
mean.
no live on Wednesday, just to let everybody
okay.
know. Yeah.
That's what I meant, guys. Oh, guys, by the way, we ordered new equipment. So hopefully nobody will complain going forward. I know that's not going to happen. But got a shotgun. Well, I didn't get it. So I ordered it, but the website said coming, you know, more on the way instead of out of stock. So I need to call them this afternoon and find out, what does that mean? When am I getting this thing? Because if he told me it's out of stock, I could have bought it from another website. But it's supposed to be really good. So
And
we
the
got.
background sound is the air, so it's not the
If you
microphone.
got a complaint, you know you can direct message Fox.
With the video.
So yeah, we got in. Well, hopefully we get that soon. Is a shotgun microphone, which but that's still not going to do anything when I'm traveling, because the acoustics in most places not quite as good as here. Although the heat, we shut it off and it's still going. I don't know what's going on, guys. We need an HVAC guy. Guys, by the way, if you're willing to build me a studio, I'd be happy to use it, and you're going to get a perfect product.
We can start a GoFundMe.
Yeah, GoFundMe. Yeah, let's go. All right, guys. So what do we have, Mike?
So the first question is from the lister. He's asking, when trying to armbar the right arm in perpendicular guard, I'm getting my left leg blocked by that arm. You seem to move their arm with your hips, but the arm blocks my rotation. Then he does a quick clarification, saying, let's see if I can find it.
That's, you know, it's actually the same. Yeah, go ahead.
He says, even when drilling with a willing partner, they post the arm onto the mat and it becomes heavy, and I can't move my hips past the arm to get the arm bar.
All right, guys. I'm going to refer you to the episode I did in Holland. We had professional help. We started 45 minutes earlier, but my friend is always late, so I wanted to be there an hour earlier, make sure we set up. We had a professional help, and yet somehow they propped up. We tried to do it through laptop with fancy microphones. We wound up going back to the iPhone, but they wound up propping it up with a stack of Post-it notes, which is visible in the first 30 seconds. But anyways, we talk about that. But let me go over that very quickly, you know, because it was the same question that Davey Finer from Canada had. Maybe it's the same guy, because I don't know, you know, what the usernames are on. So, you know what to do, right? So he blocks me. Block me. Block me. What am I doing? What am I doing when he blocks me, guys?
Not letting me block you.
Correct. How?
GM Baseball says pushing up.
Yes. Who controls your hips? You do. When he posts, he's not stacking you right at that point. I get it. When somebody's stacking you hard, you may not be able to push up with your hips. At that point, his sole purpose is to stop falling forward, and that's so they're not stacking you. So what they're doing is basically blocking your hips, but you have the power to just lift your hips up. That hand comes off the floor. So let's look at it again. I covered it with my buddy Kemmel in the Holland episode we did. It's only a few weeks old. It's probably about 4 weeks ago, roughly.
September.
Anthony T said episode 26.
Thank you, episode 26. And you know my buddy, because you know when I travel, my back usually is even worse, and he was concerned about
He's on.
well he's a little bit larger than Enrique. Yeah, he was concerned about his arm too. That. So he says, you know, you can't sweep me. I said, yeah, I'm pretty sure I can, or I can armbar you. So, anyways, long story short, guys. So when I go into this, as he's blocking, I pop my hips just a little bit up, and it's done. It doesn't matter whether I wind up with this armbar or this one. It doesn't matter. Notice how I'm popping my hips. You need to, you know, with drilling, you pop your hips up just enough to get that hand off the ground. So you don't want to pop them up too far where he goes into another stratosphere and leaves, but you need to pop them up just enough. This is all you need. You need to raise your hips from here to here. That's it. We're talking a couple of inches. One more time. Because this is a recurring question. So as I'm spinning out, I'm not just spinning out. So as I'm completing this spin, when I get to this point, I pop my hips just a little bit. This is all I need. This is done. Oh, you want me to armbar you again? So I hope that answers that question.
Another question that we have is from Gilbert Lopez. He's asking, can you show a mounted Ezekiel, no-gi Ezekiel escape?
Oh, crap.
Yes, let's go.
Gilbert Lopez, huh? Okay. So, this is why I think it's such a good weapon is, look at you all happy. It's like so
Christmas early.
Christmas in November. Is it November yet? Yes.
Yes.
All right, so I can't do a whole lot on this side. And no, it's okay. Don't worry. If I go out, I go out.
Episode 19.
Yeah, let's go. So, sometimes people just feel like they can try to ride up. The problem is when you're doing this, look how I'm opening my neck. So that's not an answer, okay? Even though it may feel like an answer. So there's not a whole lot I can do on this side, on my right side. But this is where I can weave in. But I also know... Oh, crap. Yes. So what do? I weave my arm in on the side where there's space. Jiu-Jitsu guys, I tell all my students all the time, You will never hear me say jiu-jitsu is easy, but it is logical. So when he has the Ezekiel, on one side there's no space, and if I try to roll him to wind up on top, usually that's when, even if the choke is not quite on, this constriction, it's going to kick on. So that's not the answer. So there is space, so I weave my arm through it. The problem becomes, now you become vulnerable to other attacks from the mount, where now he starts to isolate the arm, where you might have an arm bar, you might have an arm triangle, you might have, Americana, key lock, or modified. So there's a lot of different attacks he can do. So again, when you're caught in a bad position, you need, there's a reason why it's called bad position, because you may need to give something up, and then when you do, you're going to be caught in a possibly another form of. This heat is driving me crazy. I guarantee you, we turned it off. We did that same thing last week, and it literally, as soon as we finished filming, it shut off. It's been off, theoretically off. How is this possible?
I don't know, but we're warm.
At least we're warm now. So, anyways, you have to weave that arm, but you become vulnerable to other attacks.
And Adolfo Ferranda is asking, Fox, can you show us how to avoid and counter the truck? It sometimes happens to me when a guy is in my half guard.
Okay, Adolfo, you have you got the power, right? You got the. Adolfo is a long-time viewer. He keeps updating the index. Thank you very much for that. We did cover that in one episode. I just don't remember which one.
No, I think we covered the truck.
We covered the truck? Oh, okay. Yeah, this is going to be... But I've done it to him because he keeps, he... yeah, this is his favorite move. So as he goes for this, right? What I'm doing is, so first of all, I don't want to leave my leg outside. If I can, I'll have it a little bit inside so I could try to control the trajectory a little bit. Now, as this is happening, I kind of go with it, but what I'm doing is I try to bring my leg down with my kneecap pointing at the floor, but as I'm landing, I turn it. I stiff arm Enrique's neck, and my foot goes. I remember doing this to you before.
Oh, yeah. We did it for the armbar video, or split part.
Oh yeah? Oh, okay. Let's do it again. So let's do it from a couple of different angles. Maybe it was not as clear. So, and stay on the same side. So as he's doing this, so again, I don't want to just kind of like open my legs because this is going to be really bad. So what I try to do is turn my hips slightly to the direction that he's going in. Notice that there's a whole bunch of things going on at the same time. So my left hand, if he's on my left side, is posting on his neck, thumb down. And I'm kind of going with this leg because I'm hoping that when we reach the bottom point where he hits the ground, this is when I'm turning my knee to the ceiling. If you do this right, guys, do it with somebody you trust, because when you do this right, there'll be tension in your leg, but there will not be a pop. We want to avoid pops. And I'm going to put my foot on the hip. And as he's coming up, I'm attacking immediately into. Oh. Tap. The reality is, it becomes a question of execution. Let's do one more time. Who's better at the execution? The reality is, probably half the time when he does this, he winds up hunting for my back. I usually manage to escape, through some other. But at that point he's on my back, so now I use back escapes. But this one, this is the first battle, and a lot of times it works. Against this is one of his favorite techniques, and against a lesser skilled guy, it works, almost pretty much all the time. But he's high level skilled guy, so. So again, I'm kind of I don't fight it because if I fought it, there is a possibility of a calf slice or two. So what I do, I go with it. So I kind of almost try to accelerate to try to be. Now I can turn my knee facing up rather than down. Stiff arm him, and foot goes on the hip. Once he's coming up, obviously I accepted a sweep, but once it's, you have no choice. Sometimes, in tournaments, submissions result when the guy fights sort of the position so hard, so he fights the sweep and instead winds up with the guy on the back. And that happens a lot, especially you see that with guard passes in competition where the guy's fighting the guard pass so hard that he winds up turtling and then the guy takes his back and chokes him out, which is way worse than having your guard passed. So, it's a highly sort of evolved skill to sort of understand which is the better of the two bad outcomes and choose the one that preserves you longer. Maybe you let the guy score points, but at least you're in a position to recover and go after him and potentially wind up, with a submission or re-sweeping versus, fight it until, fight it for sure. But once it becomes sort of like, okay, I got too bad, but if I get swept, it's okay because now I can go after him. I can re-sweep. I can possibly get a submission versus fighting it to the point where the guy's on the back. So now instead of 2 points, I gave up 4. But worse yet, he's in a position to submit me. And we're out of time. We covered a lot of ground today. Yeah. Pardon the pun. So
Efficiently, too.
So we can't have them ask questions live, right?
No, they can send questions before. You can send them on Instagram, on Facebook.
Guys, the best way to do it is we'll put a thread on Facebook or we'll put a thread on, is there a thread on Instagram? I don't know. Mike is in charge of Instagram.
Well, we'll do this. We'll do a post on Facebook, Instagram, on YouTube. You'll send your questions. We'll answer them on Wednesday, and you tune in on Friday, same time.
Okay. Share, like, and subscribe, and
Tell your friends. All of that.
yeah. All right, guys. See you next time.